The story of the 1980 Roosevelt Dime begins decades before its actual minting, in a period when the United States was still adjusting to the economic and political changes that shaped the modern coinage system. To understand the 1980 dime, you must go back to the origins of the Roosevelt dime itself, which was first issued in 1946 as a tribute to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt following his death in 1945. Roosevelt had guided the nation through the Great Depression, and World War II and his connection to the March of Dimes campaign made him the natural choice to appear on the 10-cent piece. The design, created by chief engraver John R. Sinek, featured a portrait of Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. This design remained unchanged for decades, including the year 1980, but the context in which the 1980 dime was produced was very different from the post-war years. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the United States was experiencing economic turbulence. Inflation was high, energy prices were unpredictable, and the nation was transitioning from the economic struggles of the 70s into a new decade filled with technological growth and political change. Coin production in this era reflected these broader national shifts. The Roosevelt dime had already gone through one major transformation in 1965, when rising silver prices led to the removal of silver from circulating dimes, quarters, and half dollars. The composition changed from 90% silver to a clad structure consisting of an inner core of pure copper and outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. This clad composition continued in 1980, so every 1980 dime is made of copper-nickel with no precious metal content, but its importance lies in the evolving minting technology and economic environment of the time. The year 1980 saw production at several United States mint facilities, most notably the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 produced Roosevelt dimes for circulation, but interestingly, this was one of the last years when Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark. Prior to 1980, many coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint had no identifying letter, and the dime was no exception, so a 1980 dime with no mint mark indicates it was made in Philadelphia. This small detail is significant for collectors because it marks an era when the mint was preparing to adopt the P mint mark more consistently in later years. The Denver Mint produced 1980 dimes with a D mint mark, and these coins entered circulation across the western and central states. Denver had long been known for producing high quantities of coins, with strong strikes making Denver dimes popular among collectors seeking clean, well-defined details. The San Francisco Mint in 1980 produced proof dimes, meant specifically for collectors. These proof coins were struck with polished dies and mirror-like surfaces, and each featured an S mint mark. Proof dimes from 1980 are often found in pristine condition because they were sold directly to collectors as part of annual proof sets. The overall mintage totals for 1980 were very high, reflecting the growing needs of an expanding U.S. economy. The nation's population was increasing, and the use of coins remained strong in everyday commerce long before digital payments became widespread. Billions of dimes were produced that year at the various mints, showing how essential small-denomination coins were for daily transactions. Because of these large mintages, most 1980 dimes are common in circulated grades and hold primarily face value. However, certain factors can make specific examples more valuable. These include high-grade uncirculated coins struck sharply with full torch details on the reverse, as well as proof coins in perfect condition. Error coins from 1980 also attract interest from collectors. These may include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and die breaks. Any dramatic or visually unique minting error from 1980 is often significantly more valuable than a normal coin because error collectors seek pieces that stand out in appearance and rarity. When studying the 1980 Roosevelt dime, it is helpful to understand its placement within the broader timeline of U.S. coinage. The early 1980s were a period of modernization for the mint with improvements in machinery production methods and quality control. This era saw better consistency in planche preparation and die maintenance, though errors still occurred as part of mass production. Roosevelt dimes from the early clad era, such as those from the late 1960s and 1970s, sometimes show weaker strikes or planche defects. By 1980, these issues had become less common, resulting in a uniform and reliable coinage output that signaled the mint's technological improvement. The 1980 dime, therefore, represents a transitional point between the earlier decades of the clad coinage experiment and the more refined production standards of the mid and late 1980s. The design of the 1980 Roosevelt dime remained unchanged from previous decades, but the symbolism behind it continued to hold meaning. The obverse portrait of Franklin Roosevelt serves not just as an honor to a president, but as a reminder of the nation's resilience during its toughest times. The reverse design speaks to American ideals of liberty and strength, and the year 1980 itself represents a moment when the country was standing at the edge of a new technological and cultural era. Movies, music, and fashion of the early 1980s were shifting from the styles of the 70s into something new, and the coins in people's pockets were quietly accompanying them through that transition. Whether sitting in cash registers, vending machines, or savings jars, the 1980 dime was part of the everyday life of millions of Americans. Collectors today often appreciate the 1980 Roosevelt dime not for rarity, but for its historical context. It is a coin that is easy to find yet rich in background, making it ideal for educational projects, beginners' collections, or YouTube presentations focused on numismatic history. A deep dive into the 1980 dime allows room to explore not only the coin itself, but also the mint's evolution, the economic environment of the United States, and the legacy of Roosevelt's portrait on American currency. You can discuss how the clad composition affected both durability and public perception, how mint marks help identify production facilities, and how proof coins showcase the artistic skill of mint engravers. You can highlight the importance of studying large mintage coins as part of understanding the entire structure of the U.S. monetary system, because common coins tell just as much history as rare ones by reflecting everyday use and changes in national priorities. If expanding the content even further, you can include sections about the role of the dime in commerce during 1980, noting how inflation altered the purchasing power of 10 cents compared to earlier decades. You can also examine how coin collecting itself was changing in the 1980s, with growing interest in certified grading services, which began to formalize the process of evaluating coin condition. A 1980 dime graded at the highest levels can still be valuable today because perfect strikes are harder to find in mass-produced circulating coins. This gives collectors a reason to search through rolls from banks or old coin jars, hoping to spot that one outstanding coin that stands above the rest. In conclusion, the 1980 Roosevelt dime is a small but significant piece of American history, representing technological progress, economic transition, and the enduring legacy of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Although common in circulation, its story is intertwined with the broader narrative of U.S. coin production and the changing landscape of the early 1980s. When explained in a detailed, continuous narrative, it becomes clear how even the most familiar coin can carry decades of history, culture, and national identity with it.